Good afternoon, everybody. That worked. Wow, look at all these people. This is awesome. Oh, I thank you all for being here. Welcome to the GMC October membership meeting. I'm Greg Marcus, President and CEO of the Marcus Corporation. And it's so great to see so many of you all in person. And you know that they say you get out of something what you put into it. So I suspect today you will get something out of the meeting, and if nothing else, you will learn we are running a tight ship and we're gonna be punctual. So please start eating. I'd like to start today by welcoming today's special guests from UWM Athletics, Director of Athletics, Amanda Braun. Amanda? Head men's basketball coach, Bart Lundy. Bart, and head women's basketball coach, Kyle Recklitz. We also welcome the board of Milwaukee Women, Inc., who join us each October to share their updated research on diversity on corporate boards in the state of Wisconsin. We appreciate our continued partnership with Milwaukee Women, Inc., as we all know that truly investing in diversity of leadership is one step towards creating an equitable community. Here to present this year's research is MWI Board Chair Kim Stahl, Vice President of Sales and Marketing for Badger Meter. Welcome, Kim.
Okay, thank you, everybody. I'm glad to be here. All right, I'll get started here. All right, so I'm going the wrong direction. All right, so for the past 20 years, a group of executives here from Milwaukee got Milwaukee Women, Inc. started, and since 2004, we have been doing our research and presenting our results here at the GMC. And I'm happy to go through our results and our report. You'll find the report on your table, and please feel free to take that with you. You'll see in the results today, we've had a goal of 25% women on boards here in Wisconsin by 2025, and with the results, you'll see that we've exceeded that goal. So you can see here some highlights. In the past 2 decades, we have seen an increase in the number of women holding director seats, significant improvement, increased fourfold from 30 to 120 women. Women now hold over 26.3% of director seats in the Wisconsin top 50 public companies. And that is, like I said, our goal of 25%, and we've exceeded that goal. We, meaning Milwaukee Women, Inc., that being our goal, but at the same time, it's because of the business community that has helped us strive towards gender parity on boards. You can see here too, when we're looking at private companies, women hold 20.5% of the director seats in Wisconsin's top 50 private companies. While that's unchanged from 2021, you can see that it is above and exceeds the national average of companies, which is normally at the 14% range. And then in terms of women executives, that's something that we started to look at as well. You can see that women executives hold 26.8% of public companies, again, an increase from 23.4% in 2021. So some great strides in our public and private board composition. One of the other things, I think a couple years ago, we focused on the power of 3. And the power of 3, really what that says is that when there are 3 or more women on a board, the dynamics, they're able to influence the dynamics amongst the members, driving greater discussion and thought processes. And you can see here that the percent of women on public companies with 3 or more directors, that has increased as well. This slide is all about highlighting and recognizing many of the companies, many of you that are here today. This is a list of the Wisconsin public companies that have 3 or more women directors on their board. And those that are highlighted in orange, or what looks like it might be orange on the screen, they have actually 4 or more women directors. And I'm so proud to recognize and congratulate the companies on this chart as well. And just as an FYI, this data is through June 30th. So a little bit near and dear to my heart, Badger Meter actually now has 3 women on their board as well. That will show up on next year's report. And then here, again, just highlighting some of the significant increases, and I'm not going to go through all of them, but I think at the end of the day, you can see 4 times growth, 7 times of an increase in the number of the Power of 3 companies, 2 times growth in the number of companies with at least 1 woman director. So again, significant improvement that we're seeing because of the business community here in Wisconsin and the awareness of the recognition that a diverse board plays in the results of businesses. I'd like to recognize 3 companies and 3 women who have been recently appointed to boards. Bank First elected Laura Kohler to their board, and Marcia Anderson on Nicolay Bankshares, and Stratec with Tina Chang adding to their board. So again, congratulations to these Wisconsin-based women and the companies for increasing the diversity on their boards. What you'll see here is a list of the companies in the past year that have added women to their board. I think, again, a good tribute to the thoughts and the belief that diverse board significantly adds value to the company's shareholders. One of the other things that is new for us this year, I think we launched a first-of-its-kind database of board-ready executive women. Some of the women that we just highlighted, they're actually members of MWI. MWI was about creating awareness and creating tools for organizations, CEOs, governance, and nominating chairs to identify board-ready women. Milwaukee Women, Inc. has a database, a searchable database of more than 70 board-ready women. You can search that database by a variety of different skill sets, industry, profit experience, profit and loss experience, and it's easily accessible. There's no charge to it. It's available on the Milwaukee Women, Inc. Website. So again, one of the things that we were doing and getting from the community, how can we help create and increase awareness? Much of what we heard was, it's difficult for us to find these board-ready women. Well, we've made some things a little bit easier, and it's right there at the fingertips of governance and nominating chairs and CEOs. And just to highlight the value of that database, what you'll see now are more than a dozen women that are members of Milwaukee Women, Inc. that sit on public company boards, more than 24 women that sit on private company boards, and a dozen or so that sit on advisory boards. So again, just want to make you aware that there's a tool, there's a resource out there and available of some very well-qualified individuals, women, available for board positions. And to kind of wrap up here, we are celebrating our 20th anniversary. Tomorrow night at the Pfister, we have a celebration event of 20 years with keynote speaker Tony Towns-Whitley. She's going to be a dynamite speaker. We're happy to have her. She's a former president, U.S. Regulated Industries at Microsoft, and independent director on the NASDAQ board, and a board trustee of United Way Worldwide. She will be receiving a Trailblazers Award along with the NASDAQ board for trailblazing that new rule and regulation about the diversity, equity, and inclusion, and that value that it brings to an organization. So looking forward, I think I see some of you here today that we will see tomorrow night, and we're looking forward to that event. So just quickly in closing, I do want to thank and recognize the very many sponsors. This is a record year for sponsorships, and I thank all of those of you that are here today that have sponsored and those that aren't with us today. But again, recognizing the support that we need from the business community, and it's with the continued involvement and work of the business community that is going to continue to advance inclusive leadership in the Wisconsin businesses and community. So with that, thank you. Appreciate the time to share.
Thank you, Kim. I think all of us, and congratulations on what you just reported, all of us, I think, can agree you achieve what you measure, and for now 20 years, MWI has been about making sure that they're advancing these really important priorities for our state and for our region, and so I congratulate you, and we'll continue to be your partners as we work at the GMC to continue our goals as well, but it complements what we do, and it complements what we have to be and what we seek to be as a community and a state, so thank you. I'm just going to have a couple of remarks today. At the last meeting that we had, I mentioned that we were engaging and launching into our strategic planning process, and that we had kind of co-leads of that strategic planning process. So we have started working at the staff level over the last 5 or 6 months with Janine Edwards at P3 Development Group and Steve Zimmerman at Spectrum Nonprofit Services on our strategic planning efforts. A lot of that is internal. This is a 4-phased approach that builds on a lot of the work that happened last fall in the run-up to the selection of me as the next head of the Greater Milwaukee Committee, and it builds on the community conversations that have taken place. So we're excited about what that means and where that's going. I think on the screen here you see there are about a dozen or so community leaders who are part of our external group. So we're doing a lot of this work with the staff and driving that internally, but it was very important that we also have a group of community leaders who are part of, as we go through this process, making sure that we're touching on the important aspects of where the community is right now, understanding, appreciating the way things have changed over the last 2 years, the way the world is changing now, and what the GMC can and will be in the years to come. So you'll see on here, these are, I'm not going to read all the names, but you'll see that there are representatives who have been around the community a long time, who have served in a variety of roles in higher education, in the nonprofit sector, in the business community. There are people who are newer to this community and newer to their leadership roles. But we've had one discussion with this large group. We'll have more to come. And I can just tell you that they represent and reflect some of the best of Milwaukee and where we're going. And so really appreciate what this means. If I can just say a couple things about where I think we're going with our strategic plan. It really is truly about reinvention and reimagination of this organization and what it can be in the future. As I'll mention in a couple of minutes, we're going to be marking 75 years of the Greater Milwaukee Committee in 2023. And it has some distinct phases and what it has meant to the community over time. I think what it will mean and what it can be in the next 15 or 20 years is something that will be affected and formed by what's happened over the last few years, where we see the community going, where Milwaukee is headed. But I'm excited about the prospect, and I truly appreciate the involvement of so many people in this. So one of the things that many of you should expect is that part of this will be community conversation, dialogue with leaders in the community. So there may be outreach that you'll be getting, individual interviews. You might be part of a panel discussion or a group discussion, but all of that will be taking place over the next 6 or 8 weeks here. So just know that there'll be a number of those communications happening, and we appreciate in advance the support and the work that you will do there. Just a couple of other updates that I have to share. We will launch another cohort of Forward 48 this fall. I think you have on the screen some people who are part of the faculty this fall. One of the unique aspects of this fall's program is this is now, I think we've done 4 or 5 cohorts over the last several years. In this particular year, we're expanding the cohort not only to include Milwaukee, but to include a cohort from the Green Bay area and the Fox Valley, and a cohort from Madison and Dane County. And you see even here on the faculty reflected, we'll have representatives from the Green Bay Packers. Kevin Conroy from Exact Sciences will be part of the faculty as well. So we're really trying to make sure that as we look at a diverse pool of future leaders, current leaders, but people who can grow into future leadership positions even bigger in our region, in our state, that we're doing the kind of thoughtful, intentional work to make sure that they're getting where they need to be. So we're excited about that. I would tell you that, that we have another great group this fall. I'm excited to be part of it. They're all going to get a chance to go to Lambeau Field, which is kind of a cool thing. But it's also just, I think we are starting to see the dividends of this, not only in the business community here, but the nonprofit sector moving forward, because these are people who are going to be here, who are going to stay, who are going to continue to invest in Milwaukee. We have launched another cohort of our Spark program. There are 19 companies that are going through this program right now. I think we talked a little bit about the diversity of those companies and their leadership, and this is just another area in which we join other partners in the community in ensuring that in our commercial corridors, in every neighborhood, that we're building the kind of entrepreneurial spirit that we need and growing our economy in ways that it needs to happen. Scale Up's also going to be offering boot camps. These are intensive 1- and 2-day sessions on specific business topics. The first is going to take place at the UWM Lubar Entrepreneurship Center with industry leader Dave Wallace discussing business-to-business sales strategies. Finally, I've noted that we will, in 2023, we will celebrate 75 years of the Greater Milwaukee Committee. Over the next few months, we are truly looking inward and talking to the community about what we will be for the next generation. And so we think it's appropriate to gather, celebrate where we've been and where we're going. So I hope you'll put on your calendars, and we'll be getting out shortly save the date for an event that'll take place on April 21st, 2023 at Discovery World to help plan our 75th anniversary celebration. I think some people have already been invited to join that planning group. If you're interested in being part of that, Heather or Laura can be contacted, and you can play a role in ensuring that we have the kind of celebration and the kind of vision of where we're going forward, where we are moving forward, that's worthy of the organization, worthy of our community and its future. So I look forward to that. We're going to move on for the next 15 minutes or so to have some curated discussions at your tables. We tried this the last time. There are people from the community who are here. Some of them know a lot about sports. Some of them know a lot about other things. But we have an opportunity now. I think what we're trying to do, some of this really comes from Greg's vision and Greg's leadership, is coming to these meetings. We're starting to draw a larger crowd, but we want you to be able to have conversations here that you don't get anywhere else in the community. So you may get introduced to somebody who's brand new to the community or somebody who's doing something new here in the community. We look forward to your active participation in that, and we hope that we can continue to find special guests and people here who can really bring something new to your conversation. So we're going to do that. I think the names are on the screen of some of the people who we have here. So have those discussions at your table. One thing I would say, if in your work in the community, you're coming across somebody who we should invite or we should have come to a GMC meeting and have a discussion with a smaller group or just get introduced to more people in the community, we are open to those suggestions. Please contact Heather over that time, and we'll be able to connect you, connect those people as well. So again, with that, we'll regather for the people who are going, for Jay, who is going to be our keynote, in about 15 minutes or so. But at this point, please feel free to have conversations among yourselves. Thanks.
Good afternoon. Can you hear me okay? Can you hear me okay? I know the table talk is going well. Good afternoon. It's great to see you all. And I'm thrilled to be able to introduce President Jay Rothman. You may know that UW-Milwaukee is a proud member of the University of Wisconsin system. We are overseen by the Board of Regents, and we have from the Regents here today, Regent Hector Cologne. So Hector, I'm glad that you're able to join us today, but it is a thrill for me to be able to introduce President Rothman. I was asked at the table, so how's your new boss doing? And I said, of course, immediately, great, but I want to tell you why. I want to tell you some of the things that he's doing and why I think we're in such good hands. President Rothman, he was the chairman and CEO of the law firm, Foley and Lardner, here in Milwaukee, and he's a big hat strategic thinker who gets things done. By way of further background, Jay earned a bachelor's degree from Marquette University and a law degree from Harvard Law School. He's an award-winning attorney, being featured for many years as a nationally recognized best attorney and a frequent speaker at the SEC and other national associations. Jay is a member of the Milwaukee Bar Association, the State Bar of Wisconsin, and the American Bar Association. He has served on the board of directors of Quad Graphics, Children's Hospital, and Mayville Engineering Company. Since his appointment began, and actually before his appointment began, Jay jumped in with both feet. He's impressively engaged with chancellors, regents, faculty, staff, the UW system team on several major initiatives. I know that Jay is going to share more, but there's at least 3 initiatives that deserve special attention, and I greatly admire how quickly and how fully he's engaged in the types of feedback and interactions that he's had in these areas. First, he's embarked in his first 100 days on a listen and learn tour of all 13 UW campuses, meeting with at least 6 to 7 major constituent groups on each campus across the state. The interesting thing about public education is we have a lot of constituencies that are also known as our bosses, whether it's students, parents, legislators, regents, and so forth. It's truly one of the more complex types of organizations in that way. And I can tell you the day that we had in Milwaukee, Jay masterfully handled the listening sessions throughout the day. Jay, I hope you were as energized. At the same time, we were all kind of exhausted at the end of the day, but it's also energizing in the same way. Considering that many of our campuses have multiple locations, this was quite a feat to really have hit those already. From everything that I've seen, everything that I've observed personally, Jay's listening skills and engagement have really got him off to a great start. He's now following that tour up with visits across major business and community groups like this important GMC meeting today. So that's the first initiative. The second is that, as every good leader does, Jay is building out his senior leadership team and knows how critically important they are. He's been bringing in veteran higher education leaders. This is not something that we've always seen across the system. I'm a 34-year employee of the UW system, and I greatly appreciate how Jay is staffing his team. I'm not going to hold it against him that he took my provost, but in fact, I think that's a pretty good move. But he's also filling several other key roles. He's working on positions right now around our equity, diversity, inclusion, and belonging, so a senior position that will report directly to him for that. And he's already filled a position in academic and student affairs, as well as the government and public relations side of things. So that's the second. The third component initiative is that he's been developing, in collaboration with regents, chancellors, faculty, staff, communities, legislators, and others, a new strategic plan for the system. His learning curve has been flattened considerably because of his great listening skills and his interpersonal style. He shared an overview of the plan at our recent Regents meeting in Eau Claire, and we'll hear more about this today. But he's lost no time and plans to have this important plan in place by the end of the year. As Nancy Sennett said to me today, who has worked with Jay for many years, if he can handle the complexities of managing a law firm in which there's nobody who thinks they have a boss, the UW system is going to work well with and for Jay. As a Milwaukee area leader for many decades, Jay knows many of you. He knows the GMC, and he also recognizes the importance of Milwaukee to the system, to the region, and state. I'm very excited about his fresh vision, energy, and direction for the University of Wisconsin. Please join me in welcoming UW System President Jay Rothman.
Well, thank you very much, Chancellor Money, for that very kind introduction. When I took his provost, he wasn't quite as magnanimous as he was today, but I don't blame him for that. I am truly honored to be here today. Thank you, Joel, for the invitation. As a lifelong Milwaukee resident and a former GMC member, I am, of course, very familiar and appreciate the significant role that the GMC and its network of nearly 200 business leaders plays in this region, helping to make the Milwaukee area a best place to live, learn, work, play, and stay. I'm here today on behalf of the University of Wisconsin system, and it's clear to me that this region and the UW system have a lot of the similar priorities. When I agreed to serve in my new role after more than 30 years of practicing law in this city, I was drawn to the UW system's long tradition of making a difference. Our 13 universities across 26 campuses and the people who make us who we are change the trajectory of lives every single day, drive critical research, improve communities, and move Wisconsin forward with expanded opportunities. As Mark mentioned, I toured all of our 13 universities over the past several months. It seemed longer than that, but it's a long way between Milwaukee and Superior. You know, one question kept popping into my mind. I'm going to ask this question with all due regard and deep respect for the other institutions of higher learning in this state, but the question is this: what would the state of Wisconsin look like without the UW system? I ask that you think about that for a moment, because in my humble opinion, Wisconsin would be a very different place and not a better one by any measure. Our two R1 research institutions, UW-Madison and UW-Milwaukee, are powerhouses recognized around the globe. Our 11 comprehensive universities, along with providing bountiful opportunities for hands-on learning and research, enable students to explore their potential and prepare them for whatever the future may present them. Every year we educate approximately 161,000 students and award nearly 37,000 degrees, many in high-need areas such as nursing, education, engineering, business, computer science, and data analytics. Significantly, 87% of the Wisconsin resident graduates of the UW system schools remain in the state 5 years after their graduation. Our faculty generates groundbreaking research that improves lives and often leads to patents and new business operations. The UW system is a major source of research and innovation with over $1.5 billion in sponsored research activity annually. But that's really enough about us. I'm here today to ask you what the UW system can do to help you. What can and should the system be doing for Wisconsin, and particularly its employer community? As we have thought about these questions internally, we concluded that there are at least 3 specific and important areas where the UW system is well positioned to help the state of Wisconsin face some of the challenges that it has. And those 3 areas will form the basis of our new 5-year strategic plan. First is, that's not me, I hope, okay. First of all, we need to win the great war for talent. If this state is going to be economically prosperous, we have to win that war for talent. Secondly, we need to reduce significantly the socioeconomic disparities among Wisconsin residents. And third, we need to model civil engagement and civil discourse, which are concepts that are consistently and increasingly under siege. So let me start with economic prosperity and the great war for talent. The challenge starts with an aging population. A recent Wisconsin Department of Health Services reports concluded that Wisconsin's population, age 60 or above, comprised 25% of the state's total. That is to say, 25% of the residents of this state are 60 or older. It has been our fastest growing age segment for several years, and it will continue to be so for the foreseeable future. But what does that mean? It means a shrinking workforce resident in our state. Further, a new report last month from Forward Analytics provides that if the migration patterns of the past decade or so persist, meaning more people are leaving the state than are migrating into the state, the number of working Wisconsin residents by 2030 will decline by about 130,000 people from what it would otherwise be if those migration patterns were simply neutral. 130,000 workers. Employers, like many of you, are scrambling. There are plenty of great ideas, great plans, great dreams, but simply not enough employees with the right skills and experience to put them into action. The pool of available people with a four-year or graduate degree who are needed to meet your needs is simply not large enough. And that's before we even start talking about the people involved in the trades, because we have that synergistic relationship between people who are college educated and people who are great at trades, and we need both of them. But right now, we don't have enough of those four-year degree people. And the jobs that would otherwise be filled by Wisconsin employers here will, by necessity, move somewhere else. That's not great for our state. So where does the UW system fit in all of that? In that great war for talent. You know, in that war for talent, we have to be a magnet. We have to be a magnet for people coming in and getting that four-year degree or that graduate degree. We have a proven ability to attract and develop talent. As one of the country's premier systems of public higher education, we are a beacon for students and faculty who recognize our reputation for academics, research, and entrepreneurial excellence. And they come here to be a part of that. Do we need to do more? Yes, we do. And we're working on that. We are actively seeking to grow the pie, because I think that's the way we need to look at it. We are actively seeking to grow the pie of students at our UW universities. We need to focus more attention on recruiting first-generation college students. And I'm going to stop there for just a second, because one of the things that I have learned in this process is the amount of courage it takes that first-generation student to go. I didn't realize that until I started talking to some of them, because I did not have that challenge. It takes an enormous amount of courage. We have to do a better job with that group. We have to recruit more students and faculty from underrepresented groups. We know that in order to fill our graduate needs, but it's not only the students, it's also the faculty. Because if I'm a student of color, for example, and I don't see a professor of color anywhere in my educational career, I'm going to look at the world differently, because I'm not going to be sure I'm going to belong in that environment. And when we think of underrepresented groups, we also have to think of socioeconomic needs. It's not simply a racial issue, an ethnic issue, it is also a socioeconomic issue. And we need to be recruiting more non-traditional students, those who may have not gone to college right out of high school, but are now looking for something different. As part of that, we need to pursue dual enrollment opportunities to get young students on the path to higher education early. And dual enrollment is when they are still in high school and they're taking college courses. And I had a great pleasure early in my tenure to meet someone who graduated with her associate's degree from one of our two-year campuses before she got her high school diploma, simply because of the timing. You think about how fast you can get people and how much less expensive it is for them to go through that process. We need to do more of that. We need to appeal to the estimated 600,000 to 800,000, repeat those numbers, 600,000 to 800,000 people in this state who have some college credit but never finished. For at least a group of that 600,000 to 800,000, having a college degree would be important. And let's say it's 10%. 10% at the low end of the range is 60,000 people. That could make an enormous impact. We also need to invite those who are already employed but want to upgrade their skills to check out what we have to offer, whether that means a degree program or a certification in a specialty area such as cybersecurity. And we need to spread the word about the promise and potential of both the UW system and the state of Wisconsin to people beyond our borders. This would serve all of us well, and we are working on it. If we're going to deal with our demographic challenges, we're going to have to look at within the United States and beyond to solve some of those challenges. The UW system, I think, as you know, is a developer of talent. It's a central part of our mission to ensure that our graduates receive an education that is relevant and rigorous, and one that offers hands-on experience with research and real-life problem solving, all within a challenging and supportive environment that tries to promote success. We have a university system here with outstanding and well-respected professors and academic staff who nurture and challenge our students to take risks and always strive to be better. And how important that is. I won't ask you, but I'd ask you to think about one of those professors that impacted your life in a way that was positive, that changed the course of your life. That's what they're doing. They're working and encouraging groundbreaking research efforts, creative intellectual and artistic endeavors, and building entrepreneurial opportunities. Again, the work of those professors and academic staff is serving us all well. And I think we do have a good track record of delivering on our promise. Many of our graduates have 2 or 3 job offers in hand even before they collect their diploma. Our graduates are in demand. And I hope and I know many of you are familiar with that because you are alums of one of the UW schools or you employ them. They are a truly impressive group of people. One example of the talent where we can collaborate, and I think this is a win-win-win for you, for the system, and for our students, is internships. Ensuring UW students have access to productive internships in their experiences during their college careers is invaluable in building real life and real world skills and is a proven plus in chartering future career direction. At the same time, the employers have that opportunity for an extended interview and an extended recruitment process because many of those interns will end up being your employees. But we need to work even more closely with the state's business community, in my view, and its business leaders to ensure that UW graduates, as well as our programming and degrees, are meeting the workforce needs, not both now and into the future. We need your help in defining that. Most of our faculty, especially in the STEM fields, would welcome conversations about curriculum development. Providing faculty the opportunity to do job shadowing in specific fields would help as well to strengthen the connection between the academic side and the business side. We're already bringing certain academic programs to our universities specifically in response to demand of businesses. For example, the system at UW Stevens Point brought an MBA to its 2-year campus in Wausau at the request of the business community in Wausau. We also brought an engineering program from UW to UW Green Bay's Marinette campus at the request of Marinette Marine. And let me share one of the creative ways that relationship between Green Bay, the Marinette campus, and Marinette Marine has been leveraged. As a pilot program, we shared position descriptions directly from Marinette Marine with our provosts and asked them to identify programs around the system that might be helpful to help fill those jobs. As a result, the relationship between Marinette Marine and the university has expanded from 2 campuses, namely Green Bay and Marinette, to include more broadly our entire system. We are doing things to build mutually beneficial connections between the UW system and Wisconsin business and industry. And let me just touch on a few of those. Industry-sponsored research. We have outstanding faculty throughout our system with expertise that could be put to use to help solve the problems facing your businesses. And many times, they will engage students as well in student-led or student research where students are participating, creating opportunities beyond that particular research project itself. We're also prepared to do business or industry-specific career fairs. Each university or a cluster of universities or the system as a whole can host either virtual or in-person job fairs in support of specific industries and in certain cases in support of individual employers. We also look to form advisory groups to provide input. Many of our faculty come from the industries in which they teach or have a close relationship with those industries. Program-specific advisory boards are a great way to engage directly with faculty and students to help advise on curriculum and create internships and learning cooperative opportunities. and access to faculty. Sometimes just having a relationship with a faculty member or two in a specific program can create opportunities. It can be synergistic, and we can help facilitate that from a system level. And it's not just large businesses that benefit from connections with the UW system. UW Extension, back under the UW-Madison umbrella, has a presence in all 72 counties in the state. It's a valuable resource for everything from farm-ready research to youth development opportunities to better health outcomes. UW Systems Institute for Business and Entrepreneurship includes a statewide network of small business development centers, the Center for Technology Commercialization, and the Food and Finance Institute. There are also a number of direct UW business collaborations. I just want to mention a few. You may have heard of a joint venture between the Mayo Clinic and UW Eau Claire and UW La Crosse, where they're working together. It's paying dividends for students and faculty and the Mayo Clinic and our citizens. And right here in Milwaukee, UWM's Connected Systems Institute provides industry collaborative research and education on improving manufacturing. With participation from the Lubar School of Business, the College of Engineering and Applied Science, and the School of Information Studies, the Institute is finding technologies that harness big data to achieve fully integrated smart factories. Founding industry partners include Rockwell Automation, Microsoft, and the Wisconsin Economic Development Corporation. But I've saved the best for last, and it's that shining example of collaboration between the universities and the business community, and that's in the area of fresh water. You are likely familiar with the history of the Water Council, developed with visionary business leaders here who recognized that a number of companies in this area had a common interest centered on water technology and availability, Badger Meter being one of them. Meanwhile, UW Milwaukee was establishing a first-of-its-kind School of Freshwater Science and became a crucial partner to many businesses, institutions, and organizations that now form the most mature water technology hub in the world. The UW's Freshwater Collaborative started here, but now involves all 13 of our universities across the state, helping businesses to solve water challenges facing not only the state, but the globe generally, and graduating students that are needed in that industry. The sky truly is the limit if we can figure out how we can work together more collaboratively. So let me go to the second challenge, and that is the growing socioeconomic disparities, which can make Wisconsin and America a land of unequal opportunities. The wealth gap in Wisconsin continues to grow. It's just that simple. And at least in my opinion, it is not sustainable, either economically, socially, or civilly. The evidence of our social bonds unraveling are all around us. It is simply not good that so many people do not have hope for a better future, and we need to change that status quo. Education, and higher education in particular, has the potential to play a role in being that great equalizer, offering people new opportunities and new options for growth that pays dividends both for individuals and society and employers. But to make that work, we need to get more people in the door. We need to help them successfully progress through their educational journey and then get out the door again with a relevant diploma or other important credentials that allow them to hit the ground running. To help you get the talent you need, we must increase our access and affordability, which is precisely what we're trying to do. To encourage potential students to apply at our universities, we're trying to make it easier and less expensive for them to apply for admission. We're expanding options and smoothing the pathway for transfer students, including we now have an articulation, which is really a transfer agreement with all of the technical colleges in the state, where somebody who started in a technical college can transition very easily into a university setting. We also need to be taking better care of students once they're on campus, providing additional advising and counseling support to help them answer questions and ensure student success all along the way. We're doing that, but we need to do more. And I told Carl Mueller, I would say, Moonshot, so we got it. So, but that's one of those programs that helps people in that pathway. We're working hard to make a quality education affordable. With our resident tuition frozen now for more than a decade, the UW system already offers the most affordable public higher education in the Midwest. We are the best value in the Midwest, without question. We know, however, based on the same studies that we've looked at in terms of affordability, that the cost of a bachelor's degree can still seem out of reach for some. And a part of an affordability study that we did recently, I wasn't surprised when we turned out to be really affordable and of great value in the Midwest, but what surprised me was a demographic shift. And if you looked at a snapshot 10 years ago versus today, the number of students coming from more affluent families with incomes in excess of $100,000 had disproportionately grown in that 10-year period. At the same time, those of lower socioeconomic means were constituting less of our student body. Education in that environment is not the great equalizer, it is the maintainer of the status quo, and that has got to stop. That's why we are launching our Wisconsin Tuition Promise in the fall of 2023, which is modeled after the very successful Bucky's Promise at UW-Madison. The Wisconsin Tuition Promise will enable underserved students from families who have an aggregate gross income of less than $62,000 to attend any of our universities, and basically on a tuition-free basis. Tuition comes off the table. I have to mention in that the system's going to fund that for a year. We are asking for the legislature to help us in the biennial. And since I think that is an important thing, we're going to need your help in that, because I think that is critical to what we want to achieve. A related hurdle, and it's a big one in my humble opinion, is the need to help potential students truly understand the value of a college education. Let me give you some statistics. Well, historically, 1 in every 3 Wisconsin high school students went on to a UW system school. That number is now approaching 1 in 4. And it's not that they're going to other universities. They are not going at all. This comes at a time when there's a swirling negative national narrative about higher education that says college is a waste of time and too expensive. Quite frankly, I find that to be utterly baffling. Utterly baffling that that's what the public's perception is as we increasingly move toward a knowledge economy. But that perception is our reality. It's not just the UW system schools that are facing that. Every college is facing that same challenge. The decline in high school graduates going to college exacerbates the workforce shortages that I mentioned earlier, impacting not just employers who need engineers and computer sciences, but the quality of life in our community that definitely needs nurses and teachers. We need to emphasize the value of higher education to students and parents, and I would be grateful if you would continue to carry that message loudly to whatever audience will listen, because it is critical to our state's long-term future. You know, I'm biased, I will give you that right up front, but we think the case for higher education should be straightforward. The economic ROI is unassailable. The Bureau of Labor Statistics reports that workers who have higher levels of education typically earn more than those who have and have lower rates of unemployment compared with those who have less education. It's that simple. According to the survey, workers with a bachelor's degree, for example, had a median weekly earnings in excess of $1,300 in 2020 compared to less than $790 with a high school diploma. But economics aren't everything. There are other significant benefits as well that are important to our society. Studies consistently show higher education is linked to increased civic involvement and engagement, from voting to volunteerism. A greater understanding of people from different backgrounds and opinions, as well as health benefits and personal satisfaction. That leads me to the third challenge. Look around and look almost anywhere this day and age, and civic engagement and civil discourse are increasingly under siege. The general environment these days is polarized, and I know that's just a really great observation that I'm making, right? But it's coupled with an unprecedented access to boundless information. You can get anything you want on your phone. But sometimes that information is of dubious or quality or perhaps not fully accurate, but it's available across all these platforms, and it gets regenerated time and time and time again. In such an environment, the need for an informed and engaged populace is essential. We need critical thinkers. We need people who can analyze information carefully. That's the sifting and winnowing process that you may have heard of, those of you who went to Madison. We need people that do that and do that well. And that's just not something coming from the ivory tower, because I am not yet, I think, viewed as being coming from the ivory tower. I suspect I never will be, but that's okay. But employers are telling us all the time that they need employees who can work with others, regardless of differences, and who can communicate clearly and adapt to change. UW system students in all fields at all campuses are taught to think of themselves as innovators, as problem solvers, by taking their coursework and applying it to solve real-world problems, doing so with a critical lens. We believe this is impressive. We believe this improves the educational experience for undergraduates, and it's built into how we approach learning. It also directly links to our commitment to the Wisconsin idea. We also believe that universities must be marketplaces of ideas, an arena where research, scholarship, and creative activity flourish because of that marketplace of ideas to advance knowledge and benefit society. We need vigorous and passionate debate. It has to occur, but it has to occur civilly, and the universities need to model that. The issues that we are facing as a society are nuanced and they are complicated. They're not going to be resolved by a soundbite or a tweet. But we've got to understand what it's like to be in the other person's shoes, and we have to be able to ask questions in good faith and not be labeled or demonized. Universities have to model that, and that's what we're focused on. So as we think of those three challenges facing our state, we're not talking about theory and fancy rhetoric. We're actually putting all of this into practice. We are currently developing a new strategic plan, as Mark mentioned, for the next 5 years. By the end of this year, I got to find some wood to knock on, there we go. We expect to have a fully fledged plan with strategies that are results oriented and include metrics by which we will be able to measure our performance. Ensuring that we address your most pressing needs, the pressing needs of the state, are front and center in that strategic plan. That brings me back to where I started. When we look at a future of prosperity and promise, and I believe that is within our grasp, we must achieve three things in my view, all of which we will try to address in our strategic plan. We need to advance economic prosperity, and we need to win that war for talent in this state. We need to reduce socioeconomic disparities and allow education to be the great equalizer. And we need to help and protect and model that arena for civic engagement and civil discourse. We can do this, but we can't do it alone. I believe we need to make clear to all that the University of Wisconsin system is a vital and important investment. It's not an expenditure. It is an investment. If we truly want to grow Wisconsin, there's no better place than to make an investment in education. We need to be investing in people, in our human capital, in the same way we invest in roads and water mains and everything else. And before I even talk about inflation, which I'm not going to talk about a lot, that includes investing in our efforts to recruit more students from underrepresented groups, providing our faculty with competitive compensation, which quite frankly we are not doing right now, and addressing our aging facility infrastructure. We have a lot of buildings that were built in the 60s and 70s that had useful lives of 50 years, and I think we're past 50 years in a lot of cases. All of those issues and all of those requests are included in our biennial budget ask. But I'm not going to bore you with that speech today because I came to ask how we can be helpful to you. Let me conclude by just asking you to work with us to find new solutions for the UW system, to support your organizations and help Wisconsin work and thrive together. I really do want to hear from you. I want to hear your ideas, your suggestions, your concerns, your hopes, but most important, I want to hear how we can be helpful to your organization to be successful. We are here to support the state. That's what our role is. Please call me, set up a meeting, email me. My email address is up there right now. My email address is in the materials that we provided to you anytime. I'd love to have that conversation. We need to do this for all of us, and the time is now. Again, thank you for the opportunity to spend some time with you this afternoon. I have enjoyed this, and I would certainly welcome, if we have time, Joel, any questions that you may have.
What's one thing the system is not doing that no other system is doing that we can do?
What is one thing the system is not?
What is one thing the system is not doing that no other system is doing? Because some of the things you said that we're going to be doing, I know some other systems are doing competitively. What is something we're not doing that we have to do to kind of leap ahead of every other system?
In terms of leaping ahead of all of this?
Of attraction of students.
On attraction of students, let me give you one idea that I've thought about, that not to be quoted, okay? Two things. One is, if we want to increase that pool, we've got to do a better job on the underrepresented groups. And our teams work hard, but I think we have to have more resources, not in the high schools, but in the elementary schools and in the middle schools, to start to attract and have those students believe that they can go to college. And then we need to get them on campus. Because I think there are a lot of prospective students out there that have every bit the intellectual horsepower to do this, but don't view themselves because college is for somebody else. I think that's one thing that we can do. And then once they're there, we have a moral obligation, in my humble opinion, to support the heck out of them. Because if they're coming from different backgrounds, whether that's, whether it's a racial minority group, whether it's they can't come from a lower socioeconomic, a family with lower socioeconomic means, they may have, as I said, every bit the horsepower, but they will have had different experiences. We have to help them get through, including early intervention, and that's starting here, doing a great job, I think, of early intervention. But there's some amazing statistics about that. I'm just going to give you one because I found this really interesting. Looked at people who switch majors. And if they have a student who is struggling and failing, and if you intervene early enough and get them to switch majors, their chances of graduating go up exponentially. Because it's like if I wanted to go and I started out in medical school and then ran into chemistry, and I didn't even get to organic chemistry, I just had the regular chemistry, and it was pretty clear to me I couldn't do that well. If I thought that was reflective of my ability to be in college, I'd stop. And that's what happens. If they can get into an area where they have strength and where you use the talents that they have, they can be successful. I think we need to do more of that. We need to address the mental health issues that our students are facing. That's part of this journey. But in terms of the crazy ideas that I have thought about, one is, what if we were to offer some kind of tuition break to the grandchildren of Wisconsin residents, to have them come back into the state? They may be living all over the place, but their grandparents are here, just as one example. And they would get a break. Maybe they get in-state tuition, maybe they get something else. That's one way to do it. I was in Washington a couple of weeks ago, actually with Joel, and talking to the representatives why we are not using our immigration policy more strategically to draw people that we need in order to support a knowledge economy in our country is mind-boggling to me. And that's where I start crossing political lines, so I'm going to shut up. But those are the things I think we need to be thinking about. But I would also tell you, it's like so many things in life. It's not the novel idea necessarily, it's the execution. It is being focused on getting it done and winning that challenge was each student every single day. And you see that at UW-Milwaukee all the time, where the chancellor and his team are focused on winning that. And it's getting them to the right place, getting the right tutoring, getting the right mentoring. That's what makes a difference.
Jay, you mentioned the negative perception of higher education these days, and I agree with that. It probably even goes beyond some of the things that you talked about. Is that something you can do a public relations campaign? Would that even be allowed by your charter to try and combat that?
We are looking at that, John, as a possibility of doing some kind of campaign. Minnesota tried that. The challenge that they had is that they were finding with the resources that they put into it, it was of limited success. And I, quite frankly, go back and forth in my mind and saying, okay, we're going to do marketing, and those of you in business know you have to do marketing, you have to make that spend. And yet, when I'm looking at students and are we doing as much as we can be for those students, that's where it becomes hard. But I do think we need to raise the profile. And I think it's multifaceted. I think we need to raise the profile of what it means to be in a college education. I think we need to be in the schools earlier to be pushing on that. And I think we also have to address, because my gut is that there's a lot of high school graduates right now who are looking at $20 or $22 an hour and saying, you know, that's pretty good. And when you're 17 and 18 years old, that does probably look pretty good. Where are they going to be in 5 years from now? And is there going to be a cohort of that group that we need to re-recruit? Because they will have said, listen, I've done this, this is interesting, but I have aspirations to do something different, and come back at them that way. But I don't know how we do it, because again, I look at it, it is befuddling to me that the value of higher education continues to decline, and particularly the last couple of years, it's really taken kind of a nosedive in an era when we live in a knowledge economy. I can't put those two and two together unless people are taking a shorter view of the world as opposed to a longer term view. But I think that's the challenge we have, and that, I think it's going to take all of us to do that, not only in our own communities, but in communities with which we interact. Because I suspect I wouldn't have a whole lot of argument in this group right now about the value of college education. I'll add one other thing to that, because I think you hear these horror stories too. You hear people say, well, I finished my undergraduate degree in religious studies and I racked up $250,000 worth of debt and I can't get a job. A couple of thoughts around that. One is we are still of great value from an affordability perspective. When you look at our average debt of our students coming out of UW system schools, it's actually lower in just actual dollar terms, not even being adjusted for inflation today than it was 10 years ago. It's about $25,000. If you were in a UW system school and you racked up $250,000 of debt as an undergraduate, you've been there way too long. Just a thought. We have some of those. They love it, and it's but the other thing I think we need to be thinking about is having them start to think early. And you're starting to see that at the universities, where they are starting to talk to freshmen in their first semester saying, okay, you want to be a philosophy major. And listen, I'm a liberal arts major, so I get that. And I think there's importance about learning critical thought, learning how to write. But you also have a whole lot of other credits that you can apply. Why don't you micro-credential yourself? Why don't you think about getting 9 credits of accounting, or 9 credits in coding, or 9 credits in a cybersecurity, so that you've got something to offer to an employer out of the gate? Because my sense is once you have that first job, and if you perform well, the employer will go some ways in educating you, including paying your tuition when you come back and get your graduate degree. That was just a small plug there, if anybody lost on that, but I think those are things that we can do.
Jay, a lot of things you said today was very encouraging, and I'll mention one in specifically, but my question is not about that, but just it's around universities being a marketplace for civil discourse on different ideas. So I love that, and just encourage you to continue down that path. My question is this: given the UW system and your scale impact, how are you thinking about helping higher ed as an ecosystem, as a sector, innovate?
I think what we would like to do, we are in a lot of different national organizations that talk about innovation, and we need to get more deeply involved. I haven't quite got there in my first 4 months, but I would like to have that opportunity to really think about, okay, what does it need to look like, 5 years and 10 years from now, 15 years from now? Because my sense is it is going to be more that lifelong learner concept. It's you may get your undergraduate degree, and then you may come back in 5 years, and then you may come back in another 5 years, and it may just be certifications and badges at that time, but you stay close. And one of the other crazy ideas I've had, I said, well, is it like a subscription service that you get your undergraduate degree, and for the first 5 years, you can take so many credits or so much certification in a particular area as a means of changing that. How is it going to be delivered? Online versus in-resident. And I am still a huge believer in the in-resident experience. I think I learned more in a dorm, just talking to people and having to relate to people, and having a roommate that I wanted to kill from time to time, and I think he had similar views. But you learn how to deal with people. But for adult learners, that's not going to be a viable strategy. So how do we think about expanding those online offerings that allow them either to finish their degree or to reskill or upskill? So I think that's part of it. I'm also very open, and I've already had a preliminary chat with Mike Lovell at Marquette about how can we work together. Because we're all in this together. I mean, this is a societal issue. We are a public entity. We are financed in part, less so than we used to be, but financed in part by the state of Wisconsin. We've got that responsibility to serve the state. And that's my sign that I'm done. So.
And we only got questions from that part of the room. So actually, to that point, Joel and I were talking. If anybody has any questions for Jay, just email us, and we'll be happy to have get a follow-up on that, because we want to continue to be value add. And thank you, Jay, for sharing your vision. We're excited to work with you in your new role now that you're no longer a GMC member. Education is an important piece of the success of our community, perhaps maybe the most important, and the UW system plays a huge role in that. And I thought you asked a great question, which was, can you imagine what it would be like to not have the UW system? And I think it actually begs a follow-up, and it reminded me of the discussion that we had that comes up anytime we talk about our community's foundational assets. Why should we support the Brewers or the Bucks? I never go to a Brewers game. Imagine if the Brewers weren't here. Well, I never go. Well, I go, but others don't go. And then you say, well, did you think about your customers that you like to have come to your place of work? To your establishment, they may be fans. They may live here because of that. So imagine not having that customer. And so I think you have to take that question, and this is actually, thank you for Table Talk, Joel. This was a really good idea. It was actually your idea, not mine. But the idea of, we were talking about it at our table and thinking about what happens, to people, because there are people who say, well, just like I don't go to a Bucks game. Well, I'm not going to go to UW. What 100,000 students out of 6 million people? I mean, I'm not going. Why should I support the UW system? Well, did you go to the doctor? Because maybe that doctor was educated in the UW system. Do you want your kids to know how to read? Because maybe your teacher was educated in the UW system. Oh, did your road really stink because it was all broken up and nobody could repair it because there wasn't an engineer to help design the road that you're driving on? So yeah, the UW system plays a huge role in our day-to-day lives, even if you don't go there. And so I think that we have to be very cognizant, and people have said, some of the feedback we've been getting from these meetings is, what can I do? Well, what can you do? Talk to your legislators, and we're trying to get support for the UW system to explain to them, to give them the ammunition. When their constituents say, well, my constituents don't go to college. We don't, what do I need to support UW for? Well, tell them this is how you lead, and that's how we elect them to be leaders. I won't get political either. So with that, keep your eye out for the GMC newsletter with a recap of today's meeting and initiative updates. Don't forget to fill out the survey. The reason we have the reason these meetings are changing, the things that we are trying to do, is because we're getting feedback from people. This wasn't the only vision I have is how do we leverage this incredible group of people sitting in this room to make our community as best a place as it can be. And that starts with engagements, meetings like this, and other things we're going to do. So fill out the survey, let us know what we can do better. And I look forward to seeing you on November 14th, our next meeting. This one's adjourned. Thanks, everybody.